Alright everyone, you read the title, Fictional Worlds. There's a lot of great ones. There's also a lot of bad ones. However, today we are focusing on those great ones. My personal favorites, of course. This list will be very subjective, and you probably won't agree, but, that's my opinion. That's how this works, buddy. But no need to make the intro any longer. Let's get into it. But of course, I cannot forget about our verse of the day from the Bible. I'm starting to figure for shorter videos, I might just keep the discussion about, the verse a little on the brief side so that it doesn't take up a majority of the video, and then that way I can pump more out at a time. So our verse today is 1 Corinthians 1:25. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. Simply a verse talking about how powerful our God is and how he's without fault. It's a simple verse that carries tremendous weight, and I love it for that. How incredible our God is. But anyway, okay, so at number 15, starting us out, we have Avatar: The Last Airbender. And what can I say about this show that hasn't already been said? The world building, the character work, the progression into maturity through each season, it all culminates in a show that I've never grown tired of. However, without the depth that the Zuko story brought, I do feel like this show probably wouldn't have been on this list. But obviously it was there, and because of it, it's one of my favorite stories in media. Now moving on up to number 14, it is How to Train Your Dragon. The relationship between Hiccup and Toothless is a dynamic so well known, and it ties this whole trilogy together. Of course, I feel the other relationships Hiccup has add a lot to the series, those being his dad, mom, and of course Astrid. Quick interjection, I live for romance. It's always been such a draw to any story, that is, if it's done right, and yes, it's done wonderfully in this story. Also, some memorable villains are sprinkled in there. Now, the third movie isn't necessarily bad, but it definitely holds the trilogy back. Still, it's a world made with a lot of love, especially surrounding the different dragons and their abilities. The music by John propels these movies even further. It has such a beautiful soundtrack. But now moving on to number 13, we have the James Cameron Avatar movies. And there's just something so special about Pandora and everything crafted around it. The movies themselves aren't crazy plot-wise. They're actually fairly, I feel like fairly generic storytelling, but they're fun, feel-good experiences, and they evoke a sense of simple wonder. And sometimes simple is it's all you need in a story. And I also really like Jake Sully and his relationship to Neytiri. Once again, love stories. Gotta love them. And then also their children in the second one, while not as interesting as their parents, still make you care about what's going on. I'm hoping the future movies can continue to be good, but we have yet to see. But moving on up to number 12, Stranger Things. Once again, I don't really need to explain myself much of how I feel. It's a very beloved show. But first off, the 80s theming automatically bumps this up on the list. I love the vibrant locations and the whole upside down to contrast that. And just the set pieces alone just really set this apart from other horror type shows and movies, which I have not seen a lot of. So, if you were to put the setting aside, you'd have a slew of deep characters and a variety of monsters and villains, each being memorable in their own right. It's a show that knows how to draw out those emotions, and it's a very distinct vibe, and I love it. Now, number 11 is the Dark Knight trilogy, and there have been countless amounts of depictions of Batman in the world of Gotham, but none as all-around engaging as these movies. Christian Bale, for me, is the face of Batman. That also goes for his villains, Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Joker, and even Bane. Everyone is so perfectly cast. Christopher Nolan created a world that covers the important Batman lore while also giving it a fresh, modern layer of paint. Here's another case as well where the soundtrack elevates everything perfectly. Hans Zimmer, he never misses. And speaking of DC as well, I know a lot of people won't agree on this pick, but shut up, it's my list. It's Zack Snyder's DCEU. For my personal headcanon, this only includes Wonder Woman, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, make sure it's the Ultimate, and Justice League, make sure it's Zack Snyder's Justice League. I won't deny that the world of the DCEU is fairly dark, at least these 4 movies, excluding all of the other projects that are often tonally inconsistent And there's also a lot of changes to major characters such as Lex Luthor, The Flash, and even Batman and Superman. To that I say though, baka baka. It's fair to be upset if your favorite characters are changed and if the world these characters are in is too upsetting. Personally, it doesn't bother me because there's other media that I can look to that depicts those characters in the way that we expect to see them. But I will say that without Zack Snyder's Justice League and the Ultimate Edition of BVS, this series wouldn't have made it on this list. They really do improve on the theatrical releases. But yeah, I really can't explain why I love these movies so much. The stories are just well crafted and combined to create a very compelling narrative. They're also beautiful movies that are very well shot and they have amazing scores. They're not for everyone, but they are for me. And moving on up, we have Everything Everywhere All at Once. This is a movie that was simultaneously funny, emotional, filled with banger action scenes, and creative above all measure. It's one of the only multiversal movies that's actually good. The family at its core is likable, and the relationship developed between our main character and her husband brought me to tears the first time I saw it. It's a beautiful story, a spectacle visually, and it's filled with so much heart, and for that, it takes the number 9 spot. Now, here's an interesting one. The Disastrous Life of Psyche K. I've never been an anime guy. The art style just never interested me, and so I never watched any of it. And my wife started introducing me to anime, and it made me realize how this genre of show isn't just bound to what I imagined it to be in my head. For them nerds, you know? This was the first show she introduced to me, and ever since it's held a special place in my heart. But not just because it's the first anime, it's probably one of the funniest shows I've ever watched, and it's got an interesting premise of a kid with psychic powers going through his ordinary life. I mean, not really ordinary, since basically he has the entire world repeat the same year over and over until he can successfully grow powerful enough to destroy a meteor that's going to destroy Japan. Got that. Anyway, the side characters are fun and engaging. Every episode has an entertaining premise, and it just moves at a pace that's never boring. It is definitely a must-watch. Now we enter for a moment into gaming territory. Now, I didn't include a lot of video game stories on this list because I have yet to play my backlog of story-driven games. But at number 7, we have good old Call of Duty. Which ones though? Let's just make it simple and say the classic Modern Warfare games. Most of the Black Ops games, Advanced Warfare, I know it's mid-game for most people, but I actually like it, and Infinite Warfare and World War II, and I'll leave it at that, because the rest of the stories I don't really care for. Oh, wait, crap, I forgot about zombies, and yeah, every zombies experience has a really intriguing and inventive setting with a variety and, the way it tells a story, and it's really unfortunate how much the series has fallen off, but hopefully Black Ops 6 makes a good comeback. But talking a little bit about the stories, you have infamous characters like Price, Soap, Ghost, Woods, Mason, Reznov. Those are only like Modern Warfare and Black Ops characters, but there's a wide variety of others that you come to care deeply for. And now villains, which I'm sure you can recognize that most of these stories on this list have amazing villains alongside the protagonists. But those villains include Shepard, Dragovich, Makarov, Menendez, and once again, just a bunch more. And I like how Call of Duty doesn't just confine itself to historically accurate or modern settings. There's a lot of futuristic stories, which I get people don't really care for as much, but in essence, Call of Duty is pretty freaking cool. But now, at number 6, yeah, we got SpongeBob. What a leap in difference, am I right? SpongeBob is one of those shows made for a very particular audience, which is my generation, but it's one of the most popular things out there. Just look at the amount of memes that have been birthed from this show. It's such a wacky, nonsensical experience, but it's really the birthplace of my humor. I make a lot of comics, and without this show, I don't even know what that would look like. By the way, I just want to clarify that this doesn't just include seasons 1 through 3, which most people hold in much higher regard than the rest of the show. No, I'm including everything, including the movies, and yeah, I really dislike a lot of recent SpongeBob seasons. I'm not gonna lie, but even still, there are some gems hidden in there. Like, I watched through these seasons just to see if there was anything good, and there are a few good ones here and there. But I will exclude The Patrick Show and Camp Coral because overall, the characters and their designs are just so memorable, and the wacky ideas throughout each episode are always super fun. Good show. Good show. And look at that. We've already entered into the top 5. Make sure you share your favorite fictional worlds in the comments, and I will most definitely read them. But now at number 5, it is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm a huge superhero nerd. I'm also a big fan of variety, but variety that also leads to a collective goal. And that goal for the Infinity Saga was Thanos. Seeing every single hero come together in Infinity War is still something that astounds me at how they were able to even accomplish it. Now, of course, we also have the Multiverse Saga, which everybody has complained about, but there are still those highlights like Shang-Chi, No Way Home, Loki, WandaVision, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and Moon Knight. Can't really think of any more at the moment, but there are still good stories to be told. I just hope Marvel can pull it together and tell some more good stories. Hopefully. But circling back to the Infinity Saga real quick, the main trio of Iron Man, Cap, and Thor have some of my favorite character journeys in fiction. It's nothing spectacular, but they're enjoyable to watch. I'll give the MCU its own video one of these days, but, moving on for now, and it is Monkey Time, Planet of the Apes. This includes Rise, Dawn, War, and Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Can I just say, never did I expect for these movies to impact me how they did. I watched them when I was younger, and then I've watched them more as I've gotten older, and I've just grown such a deep appreciation for these movies. They really make you care about Caesar and his legacy. He's just very captivating, which is crazy because he's a CGI character, and just the CGI, obviously there's motion capture involved, but the CGI is just so well done. But yeah, all the conflict that arises as well is engaging, like the apes escaping from civilization and then Koba's betrayal and the whole exodus from the prison camp and Noah discovering Caesar's legacy. It's so engaging, and to think it's just a series about Monkey. Monkey. Alright, Star Wars. Yeah, that's right. How could it not be on this list? Star Wars is obviously a world of unique planets, cool battles, and simple but effective ideas, but yet, what gets it so high on this list is everything surrounding Anakin/Vader and his son Luke. Yes, there are some beautiful stories following other characters, but Anakin and his son are just what everything is built around. I love the uniqueness of Anakin being foretold as the chosen one, so that should mean him being the hero, but that gets twisted on its head when he becomes Vader. And you think he's no longer the chosen one, but in reality, he does bring balance by ultimately killing his master, ignoring the sequels. And I know, obviously, the originals came first, so, who's to say that was all planned out, but I just really enjoy watching them in order. And then Luke really gets all the credit for helping him turn back to the light, and he doesn't follow the path of his father, quite the opposite. And for that alone, that relationship and that dynamic, it just carries Star Wars this high. Now we move on to our second spot, and it's a video game. It's Halo. Halo was actually the first shooter I ever played growing up, and beyond just having really good gunplay, it had such an intriguing lore that I've since dug deeper and deeper. Now the story has fallen off a bit. Halo 5's campaign was obviously bad, and Halo Infinite was it's just nothing crazy. I do think Infinite could have done some better things to further fix 5 and itself, which I'm going to make a video about at some point. But everything before that is so beautiful. A couple of my favorite stories are Halo 2, Halo 4, just the world building, the Forerunner lore, characters like Master Chief and the Arbiter, the enemies. There's something so special about Halo. And if you disagree, teach their own, but you're crazy. Halo is just so good, and I'll forever have an appreciation for it unmatched by any game for now. That being said, our number one spot is friggin' Morbius. Holy crap, it's friggin' Morbin. Oh my word. No, it's Red versus Blue. Yeah. Shocker, I know. What can I say? It's so bizarre because it's a machinima made with Halo assets, yet it really crafts its own identity. It's also the funniest show I've ever seen, and it has some of the best character progression. All of the Reds and Blues go from these jokes of simulation troopers to Planet Liberators and the ones to take down Project Freelancer. There's also banger fights and animation. Yeah, the show may not be the most beautiful, but it's got charm. And I simply can't express how awesome this show is in this video alone, so I'm going to do a follow-up in one of the next few videos, because holy crap, I got a lot of videos to work on. I flip-flop projects a lot. But anyway, we'll get into it eventually. But yeah, Red vs. Blue is number one, and if you got a problem with that, I understand. Yeah, parents, don't let your kids watch this. A lot of swearing. I did it anyway. And I was not allowed to. But anyway, that's the list. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Please refrain from any hate. It's just my opinion. I know I didn't include some popular ones like Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, but those just aren't for me. I've watched them. Actually, I haven't watched all the Harry Potter movies, but yeah, just the worlds themselves don't really interest me, but who knows? Maybe something I grow into one day, but for now, nah. I'm sure as time progresses, though, this list will change in general, and maybe I'll do a part 2 or a follow-up for this video at some point. Anyway, I love you guys. I hope you all have a blessed day. Maybe go outside, take a walk, and if you can't, take a break from your screens. It's it's healthy. I know I'm definitely contributing to that problem, but now that my video has ended, you should take my advice because yes, I know I'm a pretty wise guy. Jokes aside, see you guys in the next one, and peace out.